Welcome. Thank you for joining the first episode of Microsoft's Top Trends in State and Local Government video series. My name is Richard Zak. I'm the Director of Data Governance and Compliance for Microsoft. And for many years, I led our strategy for public safety and justice. Now I help governments manage the complexity of bringing together data from so many different sources, including regulated data like criminal justice information, as part of their work to drive safer and healthier communities. And this is why I'm so excited that today we're joined by Maria Cardiellos, who's the executive director of the IJIS Institute, an organization whose mission is promoting data and collaboration across public safety, bringing the public and private sectors together to tackle some big challenges. Now, Maria has more than 35 years of experience in public safety and information technology to support it. Maria, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the video series highlighting leaders like yourself and who share their insights on public safety and technology.
Thank you so much for having us today, Richard. At the end of the day, I'm pleased to be here to contribute to what is a wonderful series that will make a great difference to practitioners and service providers as well, and most importantly, to represent the IJIS community as well.
Now, the IJIS community is sort of a great point to start because Microsoft is a sustaining member of IJIS, and Microsoft supports the IJIS Institute's work in so many ways. But for those who are joining the call today and aren't familiar with IJIS, would you mind starting just by talking a little bit about the mission and how it brings different stakeholders together?
The IJIS organization is a private nonprofit that's been in existence for about 22 years. It was seeded by the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance, and its original charge was about facilitating, enabling, encouraging the dialogue between public safety and justice practitioners. So classically, 22 years ago, it was the CAD and the RMS providers. And of course, with time, not only came the challenges, but the sophistication of data availability and the enhancement and growing of the community that participates in that data sharing effort. For as much as our broader community that I can sort of define for you during this call has accomplished during those 2 decades, there's so much more to be done, and there are so many more challenges to address.
You know, it's an interesting point to start the discussion because we think about the world of technology just after 9/11, when the sort of founding organization behind IJIS was started to bring different stakeholders together to increase the data collaboration to support public safety. But one thing I'd love to start by asking you around is that the technology around data exchange has changed dramatically over the years, but the total volume of data that is being collected and is available for collaboration has increased dramatically. Like, how does that change the way that you work with your stakeholders, your partners across public and private sectors to support the collaboration around this kind of data?
In some ways, it's drastically changed what we do. In other ways, it's not changed how we do it. And I'll explain that by saying that some of the factors that you made reference to, the change of technology, the availability of data, all have to be driven by the priorities of the operation. So though we are most globally started because of the justice community, we in fact today support public sector domains. So that's the justice community that represents not only public safety, law enforcement, courts, corrections, probation, etc., but all the communities and domains that now their common day exchange with. So we want to make sure that the operation and priorities leads, the policy is brought into play, and the tools support the mission and the operation.
Now, you mentioned policy, and I think that is sort of where I want to take the discussion next, because I think about a process where so many different stakeholders are coming together in a new way to address public safety. One example might be law enforcement working with courts, working with diversion programs to bring someone into the community rather than incarcerating, or post-release. Trying to bring all of these different stakeholders together can create some issues around policy, managing data, exchanging data, supporting different stakeholders in different ways subject to it. So in what way does policy and managing policy around this kind of data and this collaboration, how does that affect what IJIS does every day and what the agencies you support do every day?
It is a challenge, to say the least, but it is a critical success factor if we are going to affect positive change. The more domains that we bring together for exchanging of data, when we talked about whether it was law enforcement, courts, corrections, health, human services, etc., the more stakeholders that are brought to the table, the more complex those policy challenges can be. And in the end, the creation of a governance model that represent the executives and the visionaries and the policymakers, the financial executives, as well as the technology executives from the public sector primarily, as well as supporters from the private sector, should be part of what we refer to as an executive steering committee. The terms make a difference because we make sure that the executive steering committee that's creating the picture of what they would like it to be is then supported by SMEs, subject matter experts, that are really into the details about the operation and the process and the realities, as well as the policy representatives to say, is that legal? Is that prudent? Is that ethical on all the state, county, and local levels? As well as then the technologists to say, is that viable? Is that possible? And is that secure? So each of these things have to be brought to the fold and discussed openly and pragmatically in order to achieve success and improvement.
What role does funding play, and how can organizations work together to leverage these different funding sources to sort of make the future possible?
Well, Richard, you're absolutely right that funding is critical. Nothing is ever cheap, but the path to the funding is almost the same as the path to defining the priorities. And we, being the community, not just the technologists, but we, the community, can put in place a programmatic solution that brings in together vision, leadership, policy, operational outcomes, that is built upon data sharing, that is enabled by technologies that can be iterative, that can be secure, that can be fluid, that can enable data sharing according to the policies and the access controls that the practitioners mandate. So to that end, we need to build the business case for those of us on both sides of the aisle, whether it's practitioners or whether it is private sector. We understand well the budget issues, and we need to show how a small investment can have longer term benefits that are beneficial to all.
And is there something that is going to be the key to unlock this, to break down these barriers, to keep people from being too territorial about their data? And this is my last question for you, because if we bring all of these things together, is what's that, again, that key that is going to unlock this, that gets people driving together instead of just data hoarding and making the problem worse?
Unfortunately, I think that there's two answers to that. The first one is when there is a catastrophic event, everybody comes to the table willingly. However, I think that devoid of wanting that, because of course none of us want that, I think the reality is that we need, as an IJIS community, of which Microsoft is a prime example and member, we need to bring together our members from the practitioner and public sector world. We need to bring together the members from the service provider world, from the academic world, from the research world, from the financial world, from the technical world, in order to create a very solid community that collectively and in harmony educates as many public sector representatives as possible, saying that we work in collaboration in order to create solutions that are of short and long-term benefit to them. I think the realities will show, the practice will show, the accomplishments will show that when we go in there, we're creating model solutions that can then be implemented, whether it's at the federal level, the state level, or the local levels, independently, with or without us, because we can't be everywhere, but we do want to create solutions that are of value to the communities that we share and of common interest when you opened the session. You said that Microsoft was about health and safety of our communities, which is what IJIS is about. Mm-hmm. Safe and health of our communities, whether that's homeland or hometown, whether it's natural disasters or man-made disasters. Collaboration is the key. So if we can keep the right communication going between our internal IJIS community that constitutes all of those members, I think that we could better affect the public sector representatives to become part of it and create a stronger community at large.
Now, that's a great way to sort of close, because it highlights that it is about exchanging data, of course, to drive these safer and healthier communities, but that exchange relies on partnerships amongst government agencies, from public sector to private sector, supporting that work, and often with an organization like IJIS as the glue among them, right, helping to bring these stakeholders together to tackle these big problems. So I thank you so much for sharing your insights today, Maria. I know that the folks who are attending this session learned a great deal from your experience, from your insights, and sort of the practical approach on how to drive collaboration around data to make communities safer. So thank you again.
I thank you very much.
And thanks to all of you who joined us today. And we can look forward to additional episodes in the video series, Microsoft's Top Trends in State and Local Government, as we bring other leaders like Maria on to discuss critical issues facing state and local government and how technology can make an impact in the communities that they serve. So stay tuned for future episodes, and we hope to see you then.